Not even 6 months into the Ordinals experiment, and it's already broken. Welcome back, everyone. I hate to be like, Bitcoiners told you that this was garbage, but yeah, Bitcoiners told you that this was garbage. Okay, let's dive right into it. Here's the tweet from Predator. Ordinals protocol is broken, and the only real way to fix it is to reassign people new ordinal numbers. Your SAT number you thought was special isn't special. All right, what actually happened here? This tweet out of Leonidas.org. Let's see here. What NFT historian, Ordinals collector, building at ord_io. All right, good for you. So he likes these pictures. He likes this stuff. A bug was found in the Ordinals protocol that caused 1,200 inscriptions that should have been valid to not get included. The first of these orphan inscriptions happened just before inscription number 420,285. The bug was caused by the Ordinals protocol only counting inscriptions that were in the first input of a transaction. So far, 1,200 inscriptions were not in the first input in a transaction. This leads to the question of what should be done about this bug. From the people I have talked to about this, everyone seems to agree we need to upgrade the protocol to count inscriptions made in every input of the transaction so that we can do cool things with PSBTs and those are partially signed Bitcoin transactions. Okay, so when you have, let's say, a wallet that is offline, okay, or a cold wallet, what you can do is create a partially signed Bitcoin transaction. And what would happen is that you would get a little notepad document, and you could then simply take that notepad document and you can add it to your let's say your Bitcoin transaction, and that is 1/2 of the signature. Okay, and then when you put the two halves together, you can then quote unquote send the transactions. Anyways, PSBTs, very cool. I enjoy that feature. Anyways, let's continue because this clip is not about PSBTs. Okay, anyways. Or inscribe multiple inscriptions in a single transaction. The question being debated is, what should be done with the orphan inscriptions and the numbering of existing inscriptions after 420,285? Here are the two solutions that are being talked about the most. Solution 1, retroactively change inscription numbers. It's kind of funny because that's how they track that's how they track which inscriptions are yours. Anyways. Pick a block height to upgrade the Ordinals protocol that will retroactively include the 1,200 orphan inscriptions. This would move around the numbers of every inscription created between 420,285 and when this upgrade is implemented. This feels like the purest solution because it means the Ordinals protocol would correctly match the logical ordering on chain. Solution 2. Do not change inscription numbers. Pick a block height to upgrade the Ordinals protocol that will change the indexing rules going forward so that future inscriptions that are not made in the first input of a transaction will be correctly assigned an inscription number. This would not change any existing inscription numbers, so the 1,200 orphans would not be assigned inscription numbers officially in the protocol. It would be up to the market to value them as misprints or not. So you bought this thing thinking it was immutable and part of the Bitcoin blockchain, even though Ordinals themselves have nothing to do with the Bitcoin blockchain. That is a completely separate viewing piece of software so that you can see the data, the unencrypted data of the inscription, which actually is in the op return code. But anyways, I just find this absolutely ridiculous because so what? So you bought this thing, you were told that it was permanent, and now apparently it's not. No, we'll let the market figure out what these are and where they go. It's a clown show. And again, right? This is why we tell people Ordinals are not investments. Okay, they are not. It's not what you think it is. All right, let's continue and finish this up so that we can actually rant on it. This decision is somewhat important for several reasons, right? Between the two, right, the two options that they have, keeping the numbers the same or essentially making those 1,200 almost non-existent and just upgrade the protocol going forward and let the market figure out what happens to those 1,200 that people paid for that they thought was real, but apparently is not real. Okay, anyways, here we go. Decision is somewhat important for several reasons. Number one, it sets precedent for whether we think of the protocol indexer or the blockchain as being the official state for inscription numbers. only the Bitcoin blockchain is real. That other indexing thing you're doing, that's just some third-party piece of shit. That's all it is. Anyone can make another one. There is zero importance to it. Just my opinion. Number 2, either way, someone who thought they were following the rules of the protocol and did nothing wrong will be affected negatively. Yes, indeed. Somebody that listened to your bullshit and bought one of these stupid JPEGs now has nothing. And the viewer that they're supposed to be able to use to view the encrypted data doesn't actually view that inscription anymore because the index is hosed for those 1,200 inscriptions. Anyways, 3, it sets the tone and culture for the Ordinals ecosystem. Like a JPEG ecosystem. The big JPEG ecosystem out there, right? We always hear about that, you know, guys like Mark Zuckerberg, they're always talking about the big JPEG ecosystem. I'm sorry. This is cringy crap. All right. Are we able to hear opinions we disagree with while still being respectful to one another? I guess I just answered that question. Are we able to reach consensus and execute effectively, or will this problem just fester and grow bigger the longer we don't act? My recommendation is to everyone, no matter what your opinion is to make your voice heard. There are many other ideas than the 2 in this poll. Join Twitter Spaces, discuss this in tweet replies and Discord servers, and most importantly, jump into issue 2000 on the Ordinal GitHub, which is the best place to have this conversation. I hate to be like, oh, I told you so, but Bitcoiners kind of told you so. And this won't be the first problem. This will not be the last problem that exists, because look, what people don't seem to understand, and believe me, I unfortunately dealt with this in my past life in troubleshooting software that relies heavily on SQL, right? On Microsoft SQL database. And essentially what happens is that once the index, right, like this Ordinals Explorer is essentially contains an index, and what it does is that index keeps the relationship between the inscription and the ordinal. So when that index gets corrupt, or that index becomes unreliable, you then find out that you didn't really have ownership to that inscription necessarily. You simply just had an IOU to a pointer to that inscription. I would not mess with this. I would stay away. Guys, you know, I've said this in the past, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being a collector, with collecting things, okay? People enjoy collecting all kinds of things, cards, toys, plushies, look, JPEGs, right? But the thing that you need to always remember, okay, and this is something that I always reminded myself when I collect something. Number 1, I collect it really because I want it, not because I think that somebody is going to buy it off of me in the future for a higher price. So when you go and collect something, you know, let's say a toy or, you know, some type of a figurine or something like that, the intent should be that you are collecting it because this is something that you desire, something that it either holds some type of nostalgia to you, or you just appreciate it. You appreciate it for whatever artistic qualities it has. The problem that I see with Ordinals is that nobody is actually collecting them because they want to. They're all collecting them because they think they're going to be able to sell them to a greater fool. That's all there is to it. And I understand, you know, I can see, I've seen shitcoiners make this type of argument, even with Bitcoin, and being like, well, how's Bitcoin any different? You want to sell it to a greater fool. Again, you know, not to harp on the, not to harp on the same points over and over, but Bitcoin offers qualities that the rest of these cryptos do not offer: the censorship resistance, the hard cap, the decentralization, the unforgeable costliness, right? You cannot forge Bitcoin. Okay, you could just right click any one of these JPEGs and save them, and yeah, it really does have all of the same qualities of that picture as the original one does. The only difference is that you did not pay an exuberant amount of money for it. So anyways, look, I know that everybody's heard these rants about Ordinals 100 times, but I think it's important for this type of counter narrative to be out there. Again, there's nothing wrong with being a collector, but don't get fooled into thinking this is an investment. It's not. Okay, it's not an investment. And this right here just goes to show, it just goes to show, look, there was a mistake in the code, and all of a sudden, this supposed art that was purchased, you now have no link to it, and you supposedly own it.